noise-based that really sort of mixes both sonic and visual elements. So it's a kind of data transcoding that we're involved in. What I wanted to do this evening was really trace kind of a lineage of my own work prior to working with Corey, leading on up to the certain kinds of metaphors that we're utilizing that overlap into the talk that we just had from Christina in the area of synthetic ecology, biomimetics, genetics, etc., as it relates to media arts. So a lot of these ideas that are being pursued in various disciplines are also alive and well in the interactive media domain. So the first thing I really wanted to just start with was a little talk, or just sort of a revisiting of some of the things that I've been involved with in the past. I started as a student in the visual arts, specifically in drawing and painting and even printmaking. So a very kind of traditional focus. But that quickly led me into a lot of other modalities because I became very interested in how cross-disciplinary work and new forms might, I'll use the word, evolve out of artists from different disciplines working together to try to essentially develop a kind of total artwork. And so my areas of exploration included image, sound, text, and performance. In some senses, very traditional modes in that I studied choreography, contemporary dance choreography, but also taking it into performance art and performance actions. I was very interested in new kinds of poetic forms and the use of text, but often in early kind of generative modes used by the surrealists. So automatic writing, Dadaist performance, where performance works would be self-generated out of an idea. So this idea of the kind of work that generates itself has been kind of an early element of a lot of the work that I've done. Fundamental to all of this is that it would be a discussion, and I have this discussion with my students about the relationship of art and technology. And oftentimes, beginning level students in the arts can have either a very narrow or negative view of what technology is. And in the world that I inhabit, my ability to speak to you with a chosen language is a technological feat, as is the ability to write or to draw a picture. And I don't make a huge distinction between those kinds of things and the use of this computer, although we could talk about the ecological implications of the manufacture of computers or any product, and then we could get into some discussion about higher technologies and what the trade-offs are with those. Fundamental to the work that I have been doing with Corey and the work that I've been doing for since 2003 was to revisit specifically the fundamental aspects of video and look at video as a generative medium that in its sort of nascent form generates noise. So visual noise in this sense. And just a little definition of noise that comes from the Wikipedia. In common use, the word noise means unwanted sound or noise pollution. Oftentimes, when we hear the term noise, if we aren't sort of trained in these fields, we immediately think of it as an aural phenomenon. And it always comes with a value judgment. It's generally negative or unwanted. In electronics, noise can refer to the electronic signal corresponding to acoustic noise in an audio system, or the electronic signal corresponding to the visual noise commonly seen as snow in a degraded television or video image. And I would posit that oftentimes we see the empty television screen with noise on it in all kinds of feature films. It actually is a coded kind of message. It means something very specific. There's no one home. There's nothing on. This is empty. vacuous, etc. I don't actually believe noise to be anything like that. In signal processing or computing, we consider data without meaning as data that is not being used to transmit a signal, but is simply produced as an unwanted byproduct of other activities. In information theory, however, noise is still considered to be information. So my interest in noise was, first of all, how can I generate a sound from visual noise, so transcoding. And I started to explore it, and the image that you see here is from a print that was composited really from just two different video stills, where video noise is processed, it's rescaled, it's filtered in various ways, and actually drawing out of the video stream itself, we can actually turn a line of that video snow, random activity that's happening every 30th of a second or every 24th of a second, into an audible waveform that can then be sculpted and performed. And I'm not going to include that work this evening in terms of the performance, but I will show you some more images that come from this process. This is another kind of composited sort of tapestry-esque kind of image that comes from several, actually about 4 or 5 different frames of processed video noise. Why don't we just show that when we
We'll come back to this. We have
yeah.
a small clip that I can show that's taken from one of David's earlier works, specifically.
So anyway, what I found through a certain period, for about 3 years, I was really exploring the possibilities within video snow or noise and with the audio that can be created from noise. And it was clear to me that within a field of noise, there was an incredible amount of potential in terms of aesthetic exploration. And the interesting thing is that these systems or circuits that we would set up were essentially self-generating, and I would then interact with them in various ways. So moving along to some other threads. As a video artist, I explored early on a lot of different possibilities for what video might be. And I can assure you that for the most part, this was, even though I did some conventional films, it was not necessarily looking at the grammar that we know as a film grammar and that sort of thing, but a lot of the other possibilities that video could, forms it could take relative to the other arts, whether they be dance or music or poetry or sculpture, etc. So video can be a performance, a documentary, it can be used for activist purposes, it can be a sculpture, an installation, an object, or we can use video as a generative system. And there are a couple of leading pioneers in the audience tonight that know this history inside and out because to a large extent they invented it. But I was very fortunate to work at a lab in California, at the California Institute of the Arts, which still is maintained today, which was an analog image processing lab, not unlike the one that we see depicted here at the Experimental Television Center in Owego, which is also still functioning and is probably, and correct me if I'm wrong, Woody, but it probably houses the most diverse number of tools that are still functional and used on a daily basis probably anywhere in the world. Is that correct?
No, correct.
The lab that I worked in was originally created by Namjoon Paik, and here we see the example of the Paik video synthesizer. So one thing I sort of want to make really clear to